this chick called Reggae Girl.
Uh-huh.
And she grew up here. She's into like peacock bass fishing and everything. And anyway, we're recording. But anyway, I thought it was like really cool because she's a chick. She's not a G-stringer. And she crushes like, peacock bass. I call them mudfish, but she's like, snakehead, little tarpon, clownfish, all those exotics. Anyway, welcome to the Real Guy Podcast. I got a good friend of mine, Jake, in here today. And Garrett, right?
Yes, sir.
Garrett, what's up with you?
What up? From Michigan, but we out here, Florida. Excited to be here.
How old are you?
21 years old.
And Jake, you're 21 too, right?
I am.
Put that thing right up by your mouth.
Right up here?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. I didn't know it moved.
See, I can hear. You can't hear. I got the headphones that are plugged in. But anyway, so Jake and Garrett just got back from a fishing trip. You guys are just in Treasure?
Yeah, in Treasure Cay.
And then what, were you doing the whole backside of the Abacos and all that this time?
Yeah, we got we had access to a van that we have for the past couple of years, so it's kind of opened up that whole entire island. And there's so much stuff that nobody ever fishes over there that if you're willing to go down some dirt roads and stuff, you can find some pretty cool stuff.
So you're doing like major exploration. Now Jake and Jake's family and mine go way back, and Jake's grandfather actually showed my father Treasure Cay in the Abacos in like 1981, call it. And back then, going to the Abacos was like a major deal. And your grandfather had a 25 Mako that he got all fished out and ready to fish. But making that trip was like like now people make that trip like it's no big deal.
Yeah, back then you need that weather window.
Right.
You need to be flat.
And then the boats, burn so much fuel that hold that away from me because we can hear you breathe a little bit.
Gotcha.
Yeah, better. So like fuel was a big deal. So like just to make it from Fort Lauderdale to West End, which is like 80 miles, you were starting to like run out of fuel. So then you'd have to fuel up and keep going. And I remember the time when we loaded up that Mako for the first time and brought it over to Treasure. It was the first time I ever got a chance to go over there. And my family fell in love with the place and ended up getting a place over there. And I was actually a lot younger than you are now, but running around that island trying to figure out how to fish. So watching you grow up over there and doing that kind of fishing, it just keeps my mind, like I'm always wondering, like, man, I wonder what Jake's doing right now. I wonder if he's like, up that little creek by Treasure Cay, or if he's in the back bay, or maybe he's out off the islands, or maybe he's going to try to catch a marlin this trip. Because just like you, like when I was a kid, I could not wait to get over there.
Yeah.
It's a lot different than it is now, but I think you're taking it to like a new level. Now, what'd you get over there this week?
We had a solid week. Weather was epic. I haven't seen – last couple of summers have been weird. It's usually really flat in the summer. The last 2 or 3 summers have been real windy. Like afternoon wind is pretty normal, but this time it was just like all day, every day blowing. But this past week was nice. The whole ocean side of Abaco, which has a bunch of flats that come into the main island, and all of them have fish. And if you find a dirt road, the dirt road all goes to the ocean. So all those flats had fish. They were eating really well. Because bonefish go and they spawn on the new moon, and if they're on the new moon, they leave. And I'm skeptical about the whole moon thing with every fish.
Who told you that?
You.
I learned you that?
About what, the bonefish or the moon thing?
The moon thing.
Oh, I've seen it myself at this point. I was skeptical because you were like, I don't believe the moon stuff. And I was like, I've never seen it. But then like I started kind of paying attention to it.
Right.
And I'd go to a spot where I know where fish are going to be on a certain tide at a certain time of the day, and they wouldn't be there. And then I'd go 3 bays over, and just outside of the bay, there'd be 1,000 fish all hanging out together, either going out to sea or coming back in.
Okay.
So, and I guess, and for whatever reason, all the fish were around. They weren't all in one place going in and out. They were ready to eat. There's a few tarpon around.
But
right
you're mainly looking for bones?
Mainly bonefish.
And then you're doing just fly?
Only fly.
Why do you, what's your, like, Ever since I known you, you like always drawn to the fly rod.
I don't really know why. I mean, when I grew up fishing with you, I just wanted to fish
Right.
and catch as many fish as I could.
Right.
And then as I got older, I don't really know what drew me to it. I learned how to fly fish when I was like 9, and then just here and there up until I was about 13 or 14 would do it. But then my freshman year of high school, everything just went all fly all the time. I don't know what started it. And it helped that all my friends were into it too. So it's something we all do together.
Yeah, it's good to have the friend network so you can, kind of compete with one another with the
Right.
fly. That's a big deal. Garrett, same with you. Are you just more into fly or what?
Yeah, I'm a fly guy now, but growing up in Michigan, only took me until meeting Jake to really get into the fly world.
So you grew up in Michigan, what, Fish Lakes and stuff?
Yeah, Fish Lakes, you catch largemouth and pike up there.
And how'd you meet Jake?
Freshman year at Miami.
Oh, so you guys met at University of Miami. You didn't know each other before that.
Yeah, he looked like a fishy guy, so I said, "What up?"
It's funny how the fishy guys, will end up finding each other.
Yep.
Did you guys spend a lot of time at the U running around looking for fish?
Absolutely. We hit the canals. We were the ditch boys, boat ramp
Ditch boys.
We caught every baby tarpon in Miami. We still get it going hard, but the peacocks definitely miss Jake now.
All right. Well, I gotta tell you guys. I don't know. I guess I met you 3-4 years ago, maybe
Yeah,
3 years ago.
Yeah, whenever freshman year was.
So-
3
and
years
then-
ago.
Right, and I've known Jake a long time, and you guys kind of break the mold of what I see with the guys your age, the millennials. Like you guys got a little more. I don't know. You guys got a little more energy. You're always, trying to find a new place. It doesn't matter whether you're going to school or you're taking the, trips out to the Caribbean, or you told me about Fort Pierce. You told me about Marco Islan. Like you guys are always getting into something. And I just don't see that with the kids your age that much.
Well, a lot of kids our age, just like, especially being so technology oriented and connecting with people more so over like a screen than in person, like their lives revolve around looking as cool as they can on social media. And to
Right.
do that, they have to do things that are very mainstream for a college kid. Like there's a time and place for everything in college. And too many people get way too absorbed in what college will do if you let it, like, i.e. going out every night of the week. And, like, that can really kind of mess you up as a person and kind of skew who your friends are. Like, personally, I stayed close with all my friends because, yeah, there's a time for us to go have fun, but there's also a time for us to go and have crazy adventures where you actually get closer with people.
Right, like doing real things.
Exactly,
and
like
then
doing
you become
real fun
real
stuff.
friends instead of digital. I don't know. You think that's what's I mean, guys my age, we think that the younger generation's a little soft.
I agree, fully.
So you think they're soft too?
I don't think I'm soft. I don't think Garrett's soft.
Well, I think it takes a good amount of work, too. I mean, not everyone's willing to get off the couch for a small-ass bonefish.
Exactly.
I mean, me and Jake are hiking. We're doing all this stuff where it's easy to not do that. And it's not fun being bad at fishing either. You go out once a month.
Right.
That's not a whole lot of fun because you have no idea what you're doing and you're not willing to put in the work.
Yeah, I mean, that's common. I mean, with almost all the fishermen, but I don't know. You guys really seem to be the exception. Like, I can, I mean, let's see, you're 21, 22 years old now.
21, yeah.
So like that time, I was in the Abacos and all through the Bahamas a lot doing the marlin stuff, and there was other kids, younger, older, whatever. But there was like, they were out there, back then, didn't have telephones, and it was, kind of gamey, but you had a lot of boat washing, a lot of rigging, it was hard work. And I look at the docks today, and the tournaments aren't like they used to be, but I just don't see the kids out there with their hands on. And then to think that every time you get a chance, you reach right out to me and be like, hey, let's go fishing.
Yeah.
Like you're fishing in Treasure. You're fishing over, you're doing a big fishing trip. In the meantime, you're texting me about, dude, I got a little window when I come to Fort Lauderdale. Maybe we can get out there. Garrett and I will be in town. And the drive and like you said, the energy you're willing to put in, I love it. I mean, it makes me want to take you guys fishing every time I see you.
Yeah, I see it the most too in places like the Abacos. Like, especially the past 2 years, Treasure started to kind of rebound as far as tourist activity.
Right.
There's a good amount of people going.
Yeah.
But you don't see as many sport fishers as you used to see, and you don't see as many people at the bars. But what I do see with kids our age or even a little older who are there on their sport fishers, like I'm waking up, me and Garrett are waking up going fishing. You see these people who don't have the energy to get out of their lawn chair on the beach and put down their pina colada and go look for a bonefish. They're there because everyone wants to catch fish.
Right.
And like you told me this 3 years ago, you said the only smart people that go to the Bahamas are the people that go to catch a marlin or a bonefish.
Right, everybody
You told me
else.
that like 3 years ago.
Is it holding true?
Yeah. I mean, people like will ask me like, hey, are there any fish over here right now as far as like tuna, mahi, whatever? I'm like, I don't know. If you're smart, you fish for marlin or you fish for bonefish. So
Very good. Very good. Proud of you. That gives me hope. Jared, do you feel the same way? I mean, do you see what Jake's saying? Do you feel it?
Yep, and I know that your word is law. You know, you say something 3 years ago, we're gonna hold you to it.
I gotta watch what I say with you guys a little more, maybe. No, I think it's cool. And Garrett, I don't know if you realize it, but when I used to fish with his granddaddy, I mean, I think when I first started fishing with him, maybe I was 12 or 13 years old. And he's showing me, like, everything about Treasure Cay and Abaco and the people and the islands and where you can catch a mackerel, where you can catch a mutton, where you can catch a wahoo. And much older than me. But I could not wait to do whatever he wanted to do. You know what I mean? Because I could soak that in. And everything was fresh. Everything was new. Now, did you guys do any guides, any bonefish guides while you were over this trip?
we don't. I haven't used a guide in a while. I have a lot of respect for all the guides.
Right.
They've become good friends of mine over the past 6 or 7 years going there. And personally, it's much more rewarding to do it on my own. You know, walk a flat. We did fish with the guy who manages Abaco Lodge right now. His name's Christian Pretorius. Super fishy dude.
What is it?
His name's Christian Pretorius.
And what's
South
the lodge?
African dude. Abaco Lodge.
Okay.
He's managing that place. We fished with him and one of their guides one day, just a little farther south of Marsh Harbor, still on the ocean side.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the only guide stuff we did. Most of the stuff's all on our own. I just look for spots on maps and go check it out.
Yeah, try to do it to yourself. When I first got exposed to the flats over there, your grandfather introduced me to this guy named Othnell. And Othnell was old then.
I've heard all the stories about Othnell.
And he took me out to the Marls, like maybe 1983 or something like that. And we caught, I don't know, maybe 7 or 10 bonefish. And every time that I went back, I would save all the cash I could so I could go with Othnell. And I probably went with him a dozen times. And until he got just too old to do it anymore. And then I actually went with a guy named McIntosh, who was old like Othnell, and he was very good. But other than being with the guides, I never fished on the backside of Abaco. I got all over the front side of Abaco, you know, all the way through the, you know, little islands and over by Green Turtle and all that. And we could find bonefish. But back then, I had nobody except for Othnell to take me on the Marl side of it. And we basically just got bonefish. We never did permit. We never did tarpon. Now, you've been doing pretty good with the tarpon over there.
Yeah, the tarpon is something that I've always heard about them being there.
Right.
But I've been going there for so long and so many times a year, I never really saw them. And then the past couple of years, they've kind of started to show up here and there. And, like, people are putting in dock lights at their houses. I'm seeing them there. And then 2 years ago, I went out to the fuel station at the end of Treasure. They put that big fluorescent LED on a big pole.
Right.
And we went out there one day, and there was like 40 fish just laid up, blowing up shrimp, blowing up little pilchards. And I was like, this is it.
Wow.
This is the greatest day of my life.
You know, they weren't, the tarpon weren't hanging around that part of the Abacos when years ago. Like
That's what people have told me is that they kind of just now started to pop up.
Yeah, especially the smaller ones. Like there be an occasional like giant fish in the marina, you know, eating a scrap or something like that, and that was kind of it for tarpon anywhere in there. There was some like freshwater springs or something that Othniel said he could take me to that I never went. But he said there was tarpon there, but it was kind of, you know, like barely ever saw any. And then I was over there with Nicole and Victoria. I don't know, this has to be 7 or 8 years ago. And I'm just, you know, we're not even fishing. We're just like checking out turtles and stuff. My kid was like, you know, 6 at the time or whatever. And we're on that white sand flat out in front by the fuel station. And this school of tarpon, like 20, 30 pounders, I mean hundreds, came across that white sand and basically just parted right around our legs and kept going. And we just watched it. And I was like never seen anything like that in that part of the ocean before after all those years. So I think it's kind of cool. And then you guys are crushing them.
Now we're just all over them. They eat the fish. If you find a fish that's not spooked and you put anything in front of it, it's going to eat it. They've never seen a fly.
So the Bahamian tarpon are similar to the Bahamian bonefish? They're pretty cooperative?
I mean, and the locals know the tarpon are there, but they have no desire to catch them because they can't eat them.
Right.
Or they won't eat them. But, I mean, Garrett and I have been – there's a pond down south of the island that has them. They're in the dock lights. They're at the fuel station. They're in the way, way back on the ocean side, like on the mangrove tunnels and stuff. Right. I went and found some. And then I'm starting to see the real big fish, like migratory fish, out in the Sea of Abaco in like 8 feet of water on the white sand, just swimming around.
Gotcha.
They're popping up like real tarpon should.
That's awesome. That's friggin' awesome. And then you guys are out there actually trying to figure it out. That's pretty good. Now, what are you guys doing? Going over to Marco Islan after this?
Big plans in Marco Island this week. A lot of beach snook happening this time of year.
Targeted species is beach snook?
Beach snook. Me and Jake are fly guys, so we like to get out there in the clear water. We get them in the dock lights. Maybe some redfish in the morning. Tarpon in the back country in the Everglades.
Now, what do you got over there? Relatives or parents?
My parents have a place down there.
Okay.
And I'm working in Naples this summer, so I'm going to be hanging out there a lot.
Right on. Now, are you still at the U or no?
Yes. Just finished my junior year.
Okay. And now you left the U and you're out in Colorado?
I'm back at University of Texas.
You're
in
at
Austin
Texas.
now.
Okay. How's that going? How do you like it out there?
It's good. I mean, it's fun. It's good to be home. I chased a job back home.
Right.
And it didn't work out the exact way I wanted it to. But my living situation at home is great. I live with my 3 childhood best friends. Still get to fish when I need to. I can drive to the coast and catch 30 redfish on my fly rod if I want to. So it's been good, and I still keep up with Garrett, our other roommate, and all our friends back here. So it's been good.
Yeah, I think it's cool that you still hang out with Garrett. But I think when you're fishing buddies, I don't think it matters where you guys end up.
Absolutely not. And that is one thing that, I mean, we talked about the whole digital thing, but that is one thing that, like, I didn't feel like I would be alienated from Garrett and Jack back here if I left. Like, I could just pick up the phone and be like, yo, I'm coming this weekend. Where are we going? You know?
Right. I don't know. When I went to University of Connecticut, not only did people not fish there, they couldn't even comprehend, getting up and revolving your whole day or week or month or summer around fishing. Like, you would explain it to them like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go home. And then, you talk about all the fishing that you're going to do. And they're just looking at you like, okay. But nothing. Like, couldn't even comprehend. So I think when you, are at that age where you have all the energy like you two guys have, and then you have fishing on your mind, and as long as you guys both have fishing on your mind, you guys will constantly keep doing trips.
Right.
I think I kept doing trips until I was probably 40 years old. We'd find places that we wanted to go, we wanted to explore, we wanted to catch, like I never caught the black marlin. I caught all the blue marlin and white marlin and all that kind of thing, but I never caught a black marlin. So, I was like 30, I'm like 35 years old. I'm like, I want to go to Tropic Star. So, I saved up my cash and went to Tropic Star and, went to do that. And only in the last 10 years or so, I haven't been doing like fishing trips, even though the girls want to go to Costa Rica this summer.
There you go. That's an opportunity.
But think about that. The girls want to go.
And you don't want to go to Costa Rica?
No, it's not that I don't want to go, but it's like, it's kind of nice when your girls want to go. But like when I'm going over there, like whatever they want to do, like I'm cool. They want to go in the mountains and do zip lining, and they want to do this, and they got a whole list of stuff. And I don't know, doing so much fishing now with clients, and then I'm kind of snobbish at this point. Like I really only want a tarpon fish. And but the funny thing about the Costa Rica trip is that all the places that the wife ended up getting, Los Sueños, like the coolest whatever fishing resort they have there, you know, the most commercial and all that. And I didn't even like say anything. But now she's telling me that she wants to go catch a sailfish because we're in Los Sueños. And I'm looking at her like she's got 3 heads because the kid told me she wanted to catch a sailfish, and I took her out when she was 8 and caught her one right out here.
I was going to say she caught one not that long ago out here.
Right. And, you know, the sailfishing right off the coast of Fort Lauderdale is pretty, I mean, it's not phenomenal, but it's pretty good. You know, we get them. And I got the one with Victoria, like, first time that we ever tried. But I think that's marketing at its finest. Like, the wife wants to go to Costa Rica to catch a sailfish. In the meantime, she could see them if she looked real hard while she's freaking sunbathing on the beach here. Right?
That is one thing I want to do here still, is I want to go out when they're thick here and find one finning in the Gulf Stream and catch one on my fly rod. Like, they're like all over the place. They tease them up to the back of the boat and they flip their fly 20 feet in the water and they catch them. It would be super legit if somebody were to go out and sight fish one, not trolling. I don't know anybody who's done it. I'm sure it's been done, but I don't think it's been done that many times.
You can do it here. You can definitely do that here. I mean, there's many days when, you know, it'd be flat calm, so you could actually stand up in front of the skiff and you could see the sailfish from 100 yards away because they're just sitting there and their freaking sails popping out of the water, and you could do it. But yeah, you're right. Everybody I've ever seen catch a sailfish on fly, especially out here, has to tease them up. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. Like, I like fly fishing for tarpon.
I mean, Garrett made up this joke for me sophomore year at Miami, and it was like we'd be peacock fishing or whatever, and he was like, you know, Jake, you're never really not tarpon fishing. Like, everything you catch is bycatch, because then when you see a tarpon, everything flips, and that's all you want to catch.
That's right. That's class. You explain that to people before they catch a tarpon, and there's no way they're gonna get it. And even when somebody does catch a tarpon, only like 10% get it. The other 90% don't get it. But if you spend your time trying to figure that fish out, especially with a fly.
Yeah, I mean, I left Miami, and then Garrett goes on Craigslist and picks up a Geenoe for $100 and just goes off with the tarpon over on the West Coast. Like, it's insane. Like, you go in, like, all the ponds, all the mangrove trails, and just light them up.
Right. I mean, fishing the back of the Everglades is puppy tarpon. They're pet tarpon. You're catching them no matter what. I think really the best part about them is having to figuring them out here in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, the East Coast, where that's really where they get to, where they get in your head.
Yeah, no, they take, not only get in your head, they take your mind over. But that little fishery that you're talking about on the West Coast of Florida, I spent some time over there fishing out of Goodland for a little while. And when I first started my guiding career, I kind of thought I wanted to do, you know, more like a pole skiff type guide service, and I figured I'd figure out some good areas over in that Goodland area, and then do Biscayne Bay and kind of bounce back and forth, which I started to do. I started to get pretty good at fishing out of Goodland, but the small tarpon, the juvenile tarpon, like you're saying, in the back waters and these little ponds and stuff, I kept gravitating towards that when I was over there, and it was just a lot of fun. I had that Ranger Banshee boat.
Oh, yeah.
And I could get in, you know, all the little spots, and then, you know, we'd have our fly rods and our light tackle. But that's what I did when I was over there.
You were sight fishing?
Sight fishing a lot. You know, we go to the, like, you know, those old broken down bridges that were there, and in the mouth of the passes there, you know, and the outgoing tides and the tarpon would just kind of sit in the little passes, and we'd blind cast for them there. And then we'd sight fish them. Even we tried to do the lights thing over there. But at that point, man, the mosquitoes were freaking killing me. like I couldn't even think there were so many mosquitoes around.
Me and Jake had quite the experience light fishing Goodland.
Oh,
it's kind
yeah,
of a
we
rough
did.
neighborhood these days.
Because of the mosquitoes?
Oh, no, the
we had
people.
Some characters out there.
Like what?
I don't really remember. You probably remember a story.
So we had
better,
one
but
guy throw a shark bait at us.
What, because he was fishing for
he
sharks?
was fishing off the dock. He chucked his shark bait at us.
I mean, we were a good, 200 feet off his dock.
Yeah.
But he got his big spinning rod and his huge weight and tried to hit Garrett's boat because we were too close.
And what, he was like a homeowner?
Yeah, I mean, there's somebody.
There's a canal. What are you gonna do?
We had some guy was like, I'm gonna like violently threaten. We were fishing a guy's light outside of his house and like violently threaten us to get away from his dock. Like,
Really?
Yeah, it got pretty serious around there.
Wow. I never would have figured that.
the only tarpon I've caught, or in my time here, didn't see a whole lot of tarpon on the lights in Marcos, mostly snook, but I did catch one in Goodland, little one,
A
like
tarpon
a 5
on the
pounder.
lights?
Yeah.
Yeah. I never ever would have thought about that in Goodland. It happens here when we're light fishing or we're dock fishing, where these rich people, they don't want you to fish behind their house. I'm kind of baffled by that. Maybe the guy in Goodland has a little better argument because he actually fishes and that's his spot or whatever. But these rich people out here, they don't fish, they don't do nothing, but they have the fish behind their houses, and then they get mad when somebody else fishes, and I'm just like, and they just want to get mad. But I think what you're dealing with in Goodland is like swamp people.
Oh yeah, it was a swamp people situation, and I think the underwater lights, people really get protective over those. Yeah, they drop big money on those. They're worried about people cast netting them and stuff.
Oh yeah, that's actually legit. I mean, I'd be pretty pissed off if I spent a bunch of time and energy on my dock light and then somebody cast netted it and turned it all over, and then yeah, I could see that. I got one good friend that fishes out of Goodland. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but they call him Joe Snook. No, he's a funny dude. He's a Facebook dude. But me and my buddy Chef Joe went and fished with him. I don't know, it was like August, 2 or 3 or 4 summers ago, and crushed the big tarpon with the guy. But this guy is a total nut. But he's been doing a lot of trips over there, and I refer people to him. And yeah, Joe Snook out of Goodland. Nice kid. He actually knew my Uncle Mike. Not sure how that worked, but it happened. The anything that I need to know about?
There's snook on Abaco now.
What
It's
do you
kind of
mean?
important. I don't know. I've always some of my guide buddies over there will be like, Jake, man, I've been seeing the snooks, man. I'm like, no, you haven't. I know there's not snook over here.
You're
There's
thinking they're just mistaken or something, right?
It's a barracuda, or that's a tarpon on the flats or whatever. And then there's one guy who always tells me, named Travis Sands, awesome dude. And then when we were just there, I was on the front of the skiff, just waiting for my shot, and Christian was like, Jake, what's really going to blow your mind this trip is I've seen snook here now. And I was like, dude, this is not true. And I turned to the guy pulling, and I was like, Robert, you seen these fish? And he was like, I haven't, but they're here. And I was like, all right, tell me more. So they're there's one little area of the marls where they're seeing legit snook, 15, 20 pounders just in there.
And is there any fresh water around there?
Which was my thing, is I was like, they can't spawn over here.
I don't know what they can and can't do.
Why are they there? But I mean, if I find them, I will catch them.
So you haven't actually found them?
I haven't gone and looked for them yet, but I don't know. I'm very, very intrigued.
Well, it wasn't tarpon over there hardly, when I was a kid, and now there's tarpon over there. So
my mom saw one in a foot and a half off the beach one morning, just sitting right against the edge.
On Treasure Beach?
Yep.
Really?
In front of the beach club.
Did I ever tell you the story about the Goliath grouper on Treasure Cay Beach?
Mm-mm.
I don't know. I was in college at the time, so this is 1989 maybe. And we're all chilling at the beach. And this one family snorkeling, just kind of rolling down the white sand. And you know how you can just see everything,
right?
When you're sitting on that beach on a clear day. Well, this huge shadow starts tailing the two snorkelers. Yeah, and it's rolling right down that white sand. And, I mean, it's a big, giant Goliath grouper. Nobody really was, 100% sure what it was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it swims up behind the lady's kid and grabs her fins and takes off and spits the fins out. And the fins are, just fine, and the fish takes off. But,
No
I mean,
way.
30 people on the beach could actually see it. And we were we thought the kid was going to get eaten.
No way.
Yeah.
And you watched this happen.
Everybody watched it happen.
Oh my
It was
gosh, that's sick.
It was like TV. The water is and the white sand there. And yeah, it's the only time I've ever seen a Goliath grouper over there.
Yeah,
I guess it was a Goliath. I mean,
I've seen one Goliath there.
I guess it could have been a giant Nessa or something, but I think it's
Doubt it.
probably a Goliath.
Yeah, I've seen one Goliath there. I mean, the only grouper story I ever hear about you there is, I haven't told you this story, Garrett, but
That's a lie, by the way.
I'm going to tell it
so
anyway,
you know.
just so your listeners know what you're all about. Not really, but my dad had a pet grouper. Okay, he saw it every trip, lived in a hole in the wall in the canal, and one day it disappeared. And there's a big old Wood Maggio family folklore that the only place that grouper went is Jeff jumped in, he shot it, and they ate it. That's the story my dad tells.
I've heard that story.
I don't know where he got that from.
He just wants to give you grief.
Yeah. I
That's
remember
funny.
the grouper, though. I do remember the big grouper that used to live there. There was actually, I don't know, there was like a big storm or whatever. A bunch of those trees fell in the canal over there. And for a while, there was a ton of grouper back in those canals.
We had a couple at our dock. I caught them both on my fly rod, which was cool.
Were they big or
Little guys, like 2-3 pounders.
I'm
But
talking like big ones.
I started to see little guys pop up and they disappeared, but now it's hogfish in the canal.
What's going on with the Bahamian nightlife over there?
Krista Burner, he's still performing at the Tipsy Seagull.
Oh.
Karaoke night on Friday nights. No, there's the
Nothing?
same old stuff, but it's less people.
We want to know what it was like in your day.
Yeah, we really do. I mean, I've
It
never
was-
asked
it was
my
a-
dad,
It-
but
well, I mean, you got to realize back then it was totally different. But there was like good nightlife,
I'm kind of jealous, honestly.
like really, really good nightlife over there. Like we, as kids, we'd run around that island knowing that it was like Saturday night, and there used to be this big hotel right on the beach that's not there anymore. Foundation, I don't know, is still there, but the hotel was gone. And on top of the hotel is a place called the Crow's Nest. And there would be like full live reggae bands. I mean, a trumpet player, a saxophone player, a drummer, some guys on the maraca, a guy with the friggin' guitar, a bass player, a singer, like a 6 or 7 man reggae band. And they would go off in there. And then liquor just flowed, but that was the United States and the Bahamas back then.
Yeah, back in
the
the day.
amount of liquor and amount people used to drink back then was insane compared to now.
My dad told me a story this trip of one of his buddies. Oh, what was his name? One of his local Bahamian buddies. Can't remember, but stole a golf cart from the Crow's Nest, hot wired it, drove it into the marina, and just left it there.
Yeah, but like, and I don't know where the kids came from, because especially back then there really wasn't that many people there. But if you were there, whatever nightlife that was going on,
Everybody's there.
right, everybody showed up.
Yeah.
And then the older people were crazier than the younger people. So the younger people, had to kind of like step up the bar. But like we went over there and we were like fired up for the nightlife. I did a podcast with a girl last night called Reggae Girl.
Mm.
And she's a freshwater fisherman, And I was telling her how I fell in love with reggae music was basically because I would hang out in Treasure Cay with the Bahamians, and you'd listen to what they listened to. And you didn't have a choice back then.
Right.
So then you'd like some of it, you didn't like other, but then it stuck with you. And we used to tape it on cassette tapes, and then bring it back here and play it, because you just couldn't get the hometown original Bahamian music. But then all the different reggae that they listened to, you had to listen to because you were there.
Right.
And teenagers, like, we were into stuff over there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, some people trying to get laid, trying to get drunk. Like, people, getting drunk over there was like normal.
Right.
You'd be 14, you just roll right up, and get your Goombay smash over there.
I mean, people there are always like, drinking age is 18, but I'm like, no. The drinking age is if you can see over the bar. They will serve you if you can see over the bar.
They're still good, but people just don't drink like they used to. So it's like, it's a totally different atmosphere. The other thing too is there's just so many people in the Abacos now. Like, it really, I don't know. It's taken a lot away from, from the experience that I used to really strive for. Like, when I would go to the Abacos, 50% of it was so I could just fish. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to see another person. Whether, like, I would go by myself. and explore the flats or go down to the end of the beach or go to the point or take a little skiff across, to the outer islands. And I could be by myself 6-7 hours a day just doing, stuff. And then if you did see somebody else out there, you kind of went over to them to find out who they were and where they were from and what they were doing. Because you knew that if you were going to go lobstering or offshore fishing or whatever, you want to know who's around because you ended up fishing with those people.
Yeah. It's just not the same anymore. Now they're like, if you don't have a fishing permit, you can't fish off of your skiff without a local guide, or you can't do this and that, and like this is a private boat ramp, like, and obviously nobody's there to enforce it, but it's one of those things where for a while you see it and morally you're like no, but then after 2 years you're like, all right, whatever, this is just stupid. The Bahamians just are trying to give you a hard time because you're not local.
When's the first time you went there, Garrett?
3 years ago, and I've been in Florida, but that place kind of blew my mind.
Right?
Yeah.
It's still pretty freaking cold.
Yeah.
And we went over there I took Garrett and Jack over there right after Irma. We had 3 weeks off of school, and we were supposed to go over in October for our fall break. And in the middle of the second week off of school, I was in Texas. They were both here. I called them and I was like, "Yo, y'all want to go to Abaco next week?" Right after Irma. So the seas are it's glass, no wind,
right.
But the seas are rolling. Like we were gonna go try and catch a marlin or whatever, just one of the days. But we ended up just having to stay inside the whole time, and it was just like, I could tell it was just a whole different ball game for them too.
Now, do you get are you set up to get a marlin over there now?
I've got the stuff to do it. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing. If I wanted to go catch a marlin, I couldn't do it.
Yes, you could.
I mean, I could figure it out, but it's not my.
Well, it's not natural. It's not like you did it 50 times or something.
Yeah, it would be different. I'm used to walking around in ankle-deep water with my fly rod that weighs 8 ounces. And then even then, like, if I am going to go marlin fishing there, like the only one I've ever hooked there was one with you like 6 or 7 years ago during the tournament.
Yeah. That wasn't even fair. That fish grabbed your line and took off about 200 yards and spit the hook, and then like you could barely even tell where he was. He was so far away.
Yeah, I mean, I was sitting next to that rod, and we went through some weeds, thought it was the weeds, so I picked it up to like get the weeds off of it.
Right.
And then I think it was you were like, "There's a fish back there," so I opened it up, let him eat it. And I had him on stand-up for a little while, and I can't remember that deckhand you had his name, but he was so good.
Mitchell. He was
a beast.
Dude,
he was like, "All right, Jake, get in the chair. We're going to catch this fish for you."
Yeah, Mitchell was always my favorite mate. I had him on the Zen Dog when we do the marlin tournaments, and then when I used to work for Mr. Tupper, we had an old 1968 67-foot Huckins, a wood boat. And Tupper, he wanted to fish all the big time, marlin tournaments, the fundraiser tournaments, Boy Scout tournaments, that tread barter stuff. And we would do it on that old antique boat. And I'd bring Mitchell, and we could compete with the best of them even on that old boat.
That's cool.
Yeah, those were good times. I spent so much time marlin fishing off the coast there in, I don't know, between Green Turtle and Hopetown. I know every little nook and cranny where the fish like to hang out, on certain. I think it's more tide driven over there. I like to fish by the reef, catch those small ones that are all around the reef. That's kind of like how I've always wanted to peck away at the marlin over there. But for the longest time, I would just take people's boats from Fort Lauderdale to one of the islands over there to make extra income. The guys didn't want to take the big boats, or if they did want to take it, they wanted to be with somebody that, they felt like wouldn't run into a rock or something like that. So, I spent a lot of time just transporting boats back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then all these guys were sport fishing dudes. So then you kind of do that around the different tournaments and all that. Today, when I'm over in Treasure Cay or spend any time out on any of those outer islands, I just don't see people marlin fishing. Maybe 1 or 2 boats in Treasure Cay are doing it the last time I was there. And I don't know. I just thought, when I was growing up, I just thought that's why people went.
Was to catch marlin.
Yeah, it was to catch marlin. And I don't know. I think it was 3 years ago. We're sitting at Scotland Key. Now, Scotland's the private key. And the kids are swimming off the dock on the bayside, right?
There's tarpon in the ponds on Scotland Key.
Yeah, I saw that. Do you know Wilson over there?
I'm not. You've told me about him. I've got friends.
He showed me them. He was like, and we threw some cut ballyhoo in there, and they actually came right over. But anyway, it was lobster season, and the kids are just, swimming off the dock out back, and there's so many people buzzing on the backside of Scotland, going from Guana to Hopetown and back. You couldn't even let the kids swim out there because you're afraid some drunk was going to run them over. And that's a big, big difference to
how it used to be and how it is now.
Yeah, like, I mean, you never even saw a boat. I mean, I was out there probably 50 times with your granddaddy and never even saw another person out there.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, I've even, like, when I was real young, I remember the Tipsy and the Marina condos just popping off during the tournaments.
Right. The tournaments would come into place with blow
But then
up.
when I was in high school, the tournaments died, and one year there was like 6 boats that fished it.
Right.
And then now they don't even do it anymore.
I know.
So I've and then now it's cool because it's starting to come back a little bit, and there's some guys coming over who are catching marlin again. Like, I've got some local buddies who will be like, if I wax your boat, can I come fish with y'all? They kind of pull those little deals. So I've got a couple local buddies who will go, and I'll see their videos of them catching a nice little white or something. But I haven't talked to anybody or seen anybody come back to talk about a big blue or a super epic day ever, or since you were fishing it really well.
Yeah. I think you guys should get, if you're going to keep going over there. You got the new engines on the salt shaker,
We
right?
do.
How's that been working out?
It's awesome. I mean,
So you don't have to worry no more.
yeah, it's just
It's nice.
total game changer.
Okay. I think you two should get a little marlin game plan and then have it where you can just put it to work when you get the weather windows that you need to do it. Because the boat you have, I mean, you can catch them right there.
Yeah.
I mean, right there in the Guana Pass. It's not like you got to go traveling.
You don't have to go that far. I mean, if anybody can rig that stuff up, like, just learn how to do it, big Garrett.
So there's no marlin fishermen anymore. Are the marlins still there, you think?
Oh, dude. The marlin are there, and the marlin are there. That's some of the best ocean, in my opinion, in all the Atlantic, between there and Bermuda to get a big 1,000-pound fish. So anytime you're fishing on especially the northern Abacos, you have a really good shot, relatively, to get a giant fish. And then there's a whole bunch of fish, between 150 and 350 pounds that you can peck away at, which would be perfect for you guys on that 30-foot salt shaker. And then if you don't have the big stuff, take mine. I haven't even used them anymore. Actually, I'm going to go out June 12th off of here. We're going to do a marlin trip with my friend Norm. He's got a little Ricky Scarborough.
When's the last time you marlin fished out here? A couple of years?
No, a long time now. Since I got rid of the Zindog like 2 years ago.
Right, I remember that.
And we really weren't doing that. So figure right when I first got the Zindog, so call it 8, 9 years ago, was the last that I really, did it.
Right.
But the ratio out here is not bad out in front of Fort Lauderdale. Like, if you actually prepare yourself and have a little game plan together, the biggest key out here to me is the small dolphin. When the small dolphin are there, the marlin are easy to catch because the marlin are up on the surface, kind of like laying around underneath them. If the dolphin aren't there, then they're eating squid and tunas, and they're eating those 40, 50 feet down. So the chances of them getting in your spread are slim. But when the dolphin are there, and you troll over them, now you just got to have the decent, baits behind the boat to get the fish interested in, what's behind your boat. And that's pretty simple. You saw the same thing we did years ago with Mitchell. You put out the big dredge, you put out, 3 baits behind it, and you wait. And they will come. When I first got my little Bertram, that was 14 years ago. One of the reasons why I wanted that little 31 Bertram is to do marlin fishing right out here. And we started doing it. And we were getting at least one in the spread like every other trip. And then we were getting one to the boat like 1 in 4 trips. Then we brought the little Bertram over to Treasure Cay, and it crushed them. Did really good.
Yeah.
And then the Zindog, we were doing almost all tournaments, and we raised a lot of fish with the Zindog. The tournament that you were in, I think we raised 6 fish or something like
pretty
that.
Good amount of fish.
And we lost a bunch of fish. The very next tournament in the BBC Championship, we went 5 for 6.
I remember that. I remember that.
And that's just, same exact spread, same exact everything. It's just, luck of the draw. Sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. But think about that. That's just 2 tournaments in, like a 10-day span. And you're talking about maybe 20 fish up behind the boat.
It's pretty good.
That's a lot of blue marlin.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, the fishing over there is good. And if you have a little system, Garrett, that you can basically just plug in when it's your marlin day. And the cool thing about Treasure Cay is I caught more marlin with my friends and not in tournaments in the afternoon. So what happened is you start your day off, and you'd be like, hey, the weather's good today for that. Then you do whatever you had to do in the morning or whatever, have lunch, and then go out at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon and then fish till the sun kind of went down. And for whatever reason, I always did very well right off Guana Key, right on the reef, not even that far out. And the same thing in the afternoon, the tunas come out. And it's almost like clockwork, but they don't come out till about 6 o'clock. That sun starts to go down, and the ocean will get real fishy for about an hour and a half. And then as soon as it gets, the sun gets on the horizon, you haul ass home, because even in today's day and age, you don't need to be out in the ocean.
Right. That late at
when
night.
When it gets dark out there. So, and if you need anything for your little marlin setup, I'm sure I have it. And just we'll put it in a box and just put it to work one day. And if you catch one, you make me feel like $1 million. And if you guys catch one together, you'll feel even better than that.
Let's talk about it. I mean, I've always wanted to do it, and I've got another friend there who always is like, Jake, want to catch a marlin this year? I'm like, if we get a good weather day, I'm going to go do it. And we just haven't. He's good. Some local dude named Jerry Brutus fishes out of his 31 contender, and he is good. He'll be like, yeah.
What's he like to fish for usually?
Marlin, blue marlin, that's
Okay.
it. And wahoo when they're there in the wintertime.
Yeah.
And he's getting into fly fishing, so I'm like, all right, look, I'll teach you how to fly fish if you put me on a big blue marlin. Like, we can work out a deal here.
That's what's up. That's what you call a relay network. One guy's into catching, fly stuff. The other guy's into catching marlin, and then you guys get together, and then all of a sudden you got something. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Tonight, I'm going to take these dogs out fly fishing for the infamous juvenile tarpon, downtown Fort Lauderdale. If we don't get run over by a water taxi.
Water taxis.
All right. I don't think we're going to have the problem with the swamp people like you guys did in Goodland.
Garrett will fight them off.
Don't hate on the swamp people.
No, they're nice most of the time. Have you said you haven't gone to the lights yet this year, have you?
I haven't
Alright, well,
tried them
good.
at all.
If all else fails, I can catch look downs till I'm bored.
That's the other thing with you fly fishermen dudes. Last year I started to market a little bit more fly fishing, and I don't know, maybe I did a dozen trips or so, last summer for the fly fishing. And to get them to leave the jacks and the moonfish and the other little stuff that you can catch so we can go find a tarpon is like hard. And I'm like, only fly fishermen would get that fired up about getting, 2 or 3 look downs in a row.
I can stay away from the jacks on lights. Those kind of bother me, but I can catch a look down. I think they're hilarious. I just think it's so funny. Like, why does it look like that?
That's good eating too.
So you guys brought your fly rods?
I have like 500 flies
And you brought
all
flies?
my rods in my backpack in the car.
You guys have no clue. I probably did close to 100 trips since the beginning of the year. Tonight will be the first night that I take 2 dudes out that can actually tie their own knots. Well, I shouldn't say can, that I trust to tie their own knots.
Well, you taught me the Lunkerdog loop.
The Lunkerdog loop knot.
That's going around. All my buddies are using the Lunkerdog loop now.
Good. Tell them to listen to the podcast because that's my new thing. They go, oh, hey, remember the old Lunkerdog loop? Okay, watch your, Lunkerdog's Real Guy show on iTunes or Spotify, whatever these nerds are into. But thanks for coming and doing the podcast. I know you guys been on a plane, been sitting down, probably, getting a little rustic by now. But having you here, I had to take the opportunity to put the microphone in front of your face. And I hope it's not the last time, because I think people would look forward to hearing about more of the fly fish stuff over there, and if you guys put together a decent marlin plan.
And then we'll catch a marlin on fly and really blow people's minds.
See what I mean? You guys are stepping up the bar. I'm not seeing the other millennial guys do that. They're just like nothing. I take them out on the boat, and they say nothing, and then they get off the boat, and then I talk to their dad like a month later, and they're like, oh, yeah, the kid had the greatest time of his life. And I'm looking at the kid, and I'm like, I couldn't tell at all. But anyway, thanks for coming in and doing the Lunkerdog's Real Guy show with us. and hope it's not the last time. And all you social media nuts will probably post a bunch of pictures tonight of Jake's moonfish. And what are you laughing at, Jake? You're probably getting a moonfish too.
Moonfish pics will be up tonight. Stay tuned.
You know what I say every time somebody catches a moonfish?
Oh gosh.
Why the long face? Run that dog. Thanks for tuning in.